slept like crap last night. I've had a very stressful morning. It is a very gloomy and rainy day outside, and all I want to do is climb back into my bed. Which means it's the perfect day to talk about working in grad school. Y'all gotta bear with me today. Hey, hello, my name is JoJo and welcome back to my channel. Or if you're new here, welcome. So for some, dare I say most people, for most people, working while they go to school is a must. This is the case for me, and I also know that it is the case for a lot of people, those in undergrad, master's programs, PhD programs, just higher education. Did my chair just squeak? Yeah, just higher education across the board. And with grad school being as expensive as it is, it's really hard to find the funds, especially if you are in a program that is not fully funded, or you're in a program that provides funding but it's just not enough. And some people just don't have the ability or just aren't willing to, pull out a crap ton of student loans and, rack up student loan debt. Or you could be someone who's just considering whether or not working during grad school is something that you might want to do, or if you can do. And when it comes to working during grad school, I'm not gonna lie, it is really hard. But there are a few options that you may have depending on your situation. And so today I'm just going to talk through some of those options, weigh the pros and cons of each. And hopefully this video might help you decide what to do if this is a situation you're having to consider. So let's just jump right into it. Disclaimer though, that this video is going to be very general. Everyone's situation is unique. Everyone's situation is going to be different. And I don't have anywhere near all of the information I need in order to make certain assumptions or consider like every single possible scenario, or to make like specific recommendations. So again, very general video, no specifics in this video whatsoever. But I still hope it'll be helpful in some way. So your first option is to just find a job outside of your school or program, basically a job just out in the world. And depending on your situation, you could either work full-time or part-time. Probably the most significant pro to this option is that depending on your hourly wage or your salary, you could be earning a lot of money, and that will definitely help you cover both school or non-school related expenses that you might need additional money for. The con to this option, however, is that working outside of your school or program means that it might be a lot harder for you to accommodate your academic obligations. I have worked part-time outside of my school and program before and had to let the job go because I just wasn't able to work my hours around my class schedule and other things that I had to do for school. So unless your job allows you to be very flexible with your hours, this may not be possible for you. Or if this is something you're willing to do, you might be able to go part-time as a student. I know that being a part-time student is very common in master's programs. It's not so common in doctoral programs. So far, I don't know anyone in my cohort nor any of the cohorts above me who are part-time students, but in my master's program, there were quite a few students who were part-time. So if that's something you're willing to do, then that's an option. Otherwise, it's gonna be really difficult to work around your school schedule. Your second option is the flip side of that, and that would be to work on campus. Working on campus is what I have done my entire time in my grad program, both my master's and now currently in my PhD program, I have worked part-time on campus the entire time. Part-time jobs on campus can be anything from office worker positions to advising roles, TA-ships, RA-ships, teaching fellowships, pretty much anything on campus. And the biggest pro to working on campus is that these positions are often a lot more flexible with their hours and when you work, which means that it is a lot easier to work around your academic schedule. The biggest con to this is the pay. Pay for on-campus positions can vary a lot, and they can also kind of be inflexible depending on the pay structure for your position, meaning that there is often a limit on how much you can work and how much you get paid. Across the board, most programs and schools overall have a maximum number of hours per week that students are allowed to work. In addition to the maximum number of hours per week you're allowed to work as a student, some on-campus positions have a fixed weekly or bi-weekly pay amount. So for example, TA-ships and teaching fellowships are usually what I have come to know as stipend positions, which means that you get paid a predetermined amount for the semester, and all they do is divide that total semesterly amount by the number of weeks in the semester to determine how much each of your paychecks are going to be. You get paid that amount regardless of how many hours you work. This is different to other positions like RA-ships or office worker positions where you actually do get paid based on an hourly rate and you have to actually clock your hours at the end of each week. However, in this case, you have to keep in mind that you aren't allowed to work over a certain number of hours per week as a student, and so that can also significantly limit how much you get paid. And for anyone who is trying to get or does have work study, your payment structure kind of is a combination of these two. So I had work study at one point. I don't have it anymore, but when I did have work study, it was kind of complicated in how it works. So from my experience with work study, it starts off pretty much the same way it would if you were like a TA or a teaching fellow, in that there is a predetermined total amount of money that you are allowed to earn for the year, the academic year, or for the semester. However, if you get an hourly paid position and you have to clock your hours every week like I did, the total amount of pay for how many hours you clocked in that week gets deducted from that predetermined amount until that money is gone. Once that money is gone, your federal work study has been used up. From here, it can kind of go two ways. The first being that you might just be out of a job because your work study has been used up. Or if the department that you're working for has enough money in their budget, they may offer to take over your paycheck and pay you each week or bi-weekly straight from the department budget as opposed to paying you from your work study amount. And that kind of just depends on who you're working for. It's really up to them. And your third option would be to work for yourself. If you have the entrepreneurial spirit, then you may start and run your own business, or you may do gig work of some kind. The pro to this option that I can see, I've never done this, but the pro that I can see to this option would be that it has the potential to combine flexibility with a lot of income. Keyword on potential. Because that might not be the case. And that is also the con to this option. Working for yourself or doing gig work where you have the option to kind of pick and choose when you work is great for flexibility and working around your academic life, but it also doesn't guarantee that you will be making a lot of money, which means that you could still be struggling to meet your expenses every month. With all of this in mind, answering the question of should you or should you not work while you're in grad school is kind of really up to you and what you determine is the best option for you. Personally, for me, I have throughout my time in higher education as a whole, but particularly in grad school, I have relied on a combination of scholarships, student loans, and working part-time in my program. But I'm obviously aware that it is not an option for everyone. I cry a little bit every time I look at how much student loan debt I have racked up in the past few years. I personally would not recommend working a full-time job, but again, it's all based on what you decide is best for you. I just think for me, working full-time in my program is not at all possible for me. I would probably have a very, very severe mental breakdown if I tried to work full-time while in my program. Not to say it's impossible, because it's not impossible, because I know someone in my program currently who works a full-time job, or at least was. I'm not sure if they still are, but they were when we started the program. They were working a full-time job. So I know it's possible, it's just not possible for me. Working while you're in grad school means really sitting down with yourself and deciding what you're willing to sacrifice. Even working within your program as a student employee, you have to sacrifice a lot of what could possibly be time to study or work on assignments or do basically anything class related. And it gets a lot harder to balance your schedule and your assignments and anything else you have to do. So what I suggest is really sitting down and doing some serious number crunching. It's gonna suck, but sit down with a piece of paper and a calculator and list out all of your expenses, all of your possible forms of income that you may have access to, and basically create a budget for yourself to see if you need to earn more or if there's anything you can remove from your expenses. From there, you can figure out what employment options you have available to you and whether or not you'll be able to manage them while you're in school. Hell, you might even figure out that you don't need to work at all. And if that's the case, that's perfect. Go to school, don't work. You'll be fine. If I had the choice to not work in my program whatsoever, I wouldn't work. I would just go to school and come home and work with my clients, and that's it. But again, this is all you figuring out the best possible solution for you. So with that being said, thank you for watching, especially if you made it to the end. I truly appreciate it. Leave me a comment down below if you have any questions or suggestions for future videos. As always, like, comment, subscribe, and click that little notification button so you don't miss my next upload. And I'll see you in my next one.